name is Johnny Mack. I'm president of Communities Without Boundaries International, and I'm pleased to welcome you here this afternoon. I'd like to turn our press conference over to Council President Jack Young.
Good morning. I'm pleased to open the doors of City Halls to these distinguished leaders. To Martin Luther King III, thank you for your continued commitment to pursuing social justice. You are a testament to sacrifice and to our nation, and we want to thank you. To Johnny Mack, President of Communities Without Boundaries Incorporated, thank you for helping to organize the action behind the 50th anniversary remembrance. The life and times of Dr. King are well known to many and certainly to all who have gathered here today for this announcement. We look at Dr. King's extraordinary works and certainly feel gratitude because of his sacrifice and pursuit of the common good. The City of Baltimore is proud to stand with dedicated advocates to improve the lives of the least among us. I was a young child at the time, but I vividly remember the sense of hope and pride that the march symbolized. We're looking today to begin a new conversation about our nation's commitment to issues of inequity, of inequality. This is a conversation that we've been having in Baltimore recently. With the passage of my historic local hiring bill, we're beginning the process of providing adults with opportunity to provide for their families. Again, I would like to thank you all for joining us today, and I look forward to the weeks and years ahead, and we look forward to the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington. And at this time, I would like to introduce our Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It is my pleasure to be here. There's something up there. Every once in a while, the council president and I get into a little rivalry, a little jealousy, and when I walk in and see Martin Luther King III in his office, I'm like, couldn't you have diverted him to the second floor? There'll be time. There's time. I want to thank Mr. Mack. I want to welcome Mr. King to Baltimore. It is a very proud day for me to be here with all of you, with all the council members, including Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark, who's here. I know that many of you will be with Mr. King and Reverend Al Sharpton later this evening as we commemorate 50 years since the March on Washington. I want to thank the Communities Without Boundaries, and the National Action Network that they are honoring this wonderful day and this incredible moment in American history. We have so many things, and I hope I'm not messing everything up with this, with the wireless stuff, so I'm just going to move everything off here. Baltimore is a city that is known for its civil rights history. When you look around our city, you see the history of Thurgood Marshall. You see the history of Perrin Mitchell and so many others who have meant so much in the fight for civil rights. So we have a very proud history. But the fact that Mr. King is with us today, the fact that Reverend Al Sharpton will be with us today, means it's not just about our history, but it's also about our future and making sure that this generation understands that the fight is not over. So I encourage you to spend your afternoon as you walk through the hot streets of Baltimore. You might have to get loose a little bit and take the jacket off. Maybe just a little. But in all seriousness, you are here as a link between the history and what I believe is activating the future of our city to understand that we are in the fight still for civil rights for this country. So with that, I am so honored to be able to welcome Mr. Martin Luther King III to the podium.
I first thank God for the opportunity to be back in Baltimore. Let me say to Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake, City Council President Young, And especially, I must say, I thank City Council President Young for hosting this press conference. Each and every member of the council, to the senator, and any other elected officials that are here. Today I come before you, and I should contextually say this, I want to thank the religious leaders of this community of Baltimore, community leaders, and the people in general. We are at an unusual point in our nation's history as we are preparing to observe the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington. On August of 1963, August 28th, a number of leaders gathered from the traditional civil rights organizations to labor. Probably just a few business people, but some. Joined along with my father to talk about how our nation would be able to provide jobs and opportunities, jobs and justice. And I'm sad to say that 50 years later, while we have made some strides, that the climate in our nation at this moment has dictated that the civil rights struggles and movement is not complete. I think that prior to what we've seen in the last maybe 35 or 40 days, and I'll say what that is specifically, that many may have said, well, why are we had a Civil Rights Act in 1964, a Voting Rights Act in 1965, Mayor, fair housing legislation, Council President Young, in 68. So civil rights is done. What are we doing about civil rights? But just less than 35 days ago, 34 or so days ago, the United Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act. And just less than a few days ago, our nation has, I don't want to use the word turmoil because it's not turmoil, but been very concerned about a verdict in Sanford, Florida, where a young man, we all know, was on his way home and because of an altercation was killed. Now what it says is that we still have a lot of work to do in the criminal justice system. And it also re-energizes the civil rights movement. We know that the Justice Department is focused, and according to the Attorney General, on whether or not there is a civil rights or are civil rights violations that can be brought. We know that on this weekend, on Saturday, in over 100 cities, the National Action Network, of course, Senator Larry Young and others in this community, have called for 100 demonstrations. I will be in Atlanta at our federal building. Non-violent is the word of demonstrations. If we do nothing else, we need to honor the parents of Trayvon Martin and his legacy by being nonviolent, protesting nonviolently. And our protest needs to be not of one ethnic group. This is not a one ethnic group issue. This is an issue that should impact all Americans, because no child should have to be concerned about whether he or she, in some contexts, would be able to get home safely. And you know, I approach this way because it is very heavy on my heart. We are mobilizing for the March on Washington, and in that particular context, while we will have a major demonstration on August 24th, Saturday, August 24th, that is not where it begins and ends. It is not a commemoration, it is a continuation. because we must continue in the tradition of Martin Luther King Jr. and so many others who were there on that day in 1963 until freedom and justice and equality becomes real for all humankind.